You woke up this morning and went to a job you hate. You sat in traffic for an hour. You spent 8 hours doing something that drains your soul. And then you drove home, too exhausted to do anything meaningful with the few hours you have left. And you did all of this because you have no choice. Because there is a mortgage, there are student loans, there is a car payment, there is a credit card balance that never seems to shrink. You are not free. You are a debt slave. And here is the part that should make your blood boil. This was designed on purpose. This is not an accident. This is not bad luck. This is not because you made poor decisions. The entire economic system you were born into was engineered deliberately and methodically to keep you in debt from the moment you turn 18 until the day you die. Today, we are going to expose the architecture of financial slavery, who built it, who profits from it, and most importantly, how you can start breaking free. Because once you see the cage, you cannot unsee it. The debt blueprint. Think about the timeline of a typical American life. At 18, before you have earned a single dollar in the real world, before you understand compound interest, before you know what a debt-to-income ratio even means, the system hands you a pen and says, sign here. The borrower is slave to the lender. Student loans, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, for a promise, not a guarantee. A promise that this education will pay for itself. And who made that promise? The same institutions that profit from your enrollment, the same banks that profit from your interest payments, the same government that profits from your tax revenue once you are locked into a job you cannot leave. In 1970, the average college tuition was about $400 a year. Today, it is over $10,000 at public universities and over $38,000 at private ones. Tuition up, wages flat. Did wages increase at the same rate? Not even close. So what changed? The government guaranteed student loans. And when banks know they cannot lose, they lend to everyone. And when colleges know students can borrow unlimited amounts, they raise prices without limit. This is not education. This is an onboarding system for financial servitude. But the student loan trap is just the first link in the chain. The housing trap. Now you have your degree and your debt. The system tells you the next step. Buy a house. It is the American dream, they say. Build equity. Invest in your future. But nobody tells you the house owns you. Not the other way around. A 30-year mortgage. Think about that number. 30 years. That is not a financial product. That is a life sentence. You will pay for that house 2 or 3 times over in interest alone. On a $300,000 home with a 7% rate, you will pay over $400,000 just in interest. The bank makes more from your house than you do. And here is what makes it a trap. Mobility. The moment you sign that mortgage, you lose your ability to move. You cannot chase a better opportunity in another city. You cannot take 6 months off to start a business. You cannot say no to a terrible boss because you have a payment due on the 1st of every month for the next 3 decades. Before 1934, most mortgages were 5 to 10 years. The 30-year mortgage was invented during the Great Depression, not to help you, but to keep banks solvent and keep you paying. They turned shelter into a financial prison. And just when you think you are settled, the next trap opens its jaws. Credit card cage. Student loans got you at 18. The mortgage locked you down at 30. But credit cards, they follow you every single day. The average American household carries over $6,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest or higher. Do the math. If you only make minimum payments on $6,000 at 20%, it will take you decades to pay it off, and you will pay back nearly triple the original amount. But here is the genius of the credit card system. It does not feel like debt. It feels like freedom. Swipe and go. Buy now, pay later. Reward points, cash back. Illusion of freedom. They gamified spending. They made going into debt feel like winning a game, and they did this on purpose. Internal documents from major credit card companies have shown that their most profitable customers are not the ones who pay in full every month. Their most profitable customers are the ones who carry a balance, the ones who pay interest month after month, year after year. They call them revolvers. The system literally has a name for the people it feeds on. If this is making you see the pattern for the first time, hit like and subscribe to keep exposing what they hide, because what comes next connects all the dots. Speaking of systems designed to extract your wealth, Let me show you the invisible one. The invisible tax. There is a tax you pay every single day that never shows up on your paycheck. It has no name on any form. No politician campaigns on it. But it steals more from you than income tax, sales tax, and property tax combined. Inflation. Since 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, the purchasing power of $1 has dropped by over 85%. What cost $1 in 1971 now costs almost $8. Your grandparents could buy a house on a single salary. Your parents needed 2 incomes. You need 2 incomes and still cannot afford it. This is not because you are lazy. This is because the money itself is being devalued. And who benefits from inflation? Debtors. Who is the biggest debtor on the planet? The US government. The government borrows trillions. Then the Federal Reserve prints money to cover it. That new money dilutes your savings, your wages, your purchasing power. As the philosopher Voltaire warned us, paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value, 0. Inflation is not a natural phenomenon. It is a policy choice. A choice that makes the rich richer and keeps you running on the hamster wheel faster and faster just to stay in the same place. But inflation is just the tool. Let me show you who wields it. The Fed's game. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It has no reserves. And it has been transferring wealth from you to the banking system since December 23, 1913, the day the money system was privatized. Think about how this works. The Fed sets interest rates. When rates are low, borrowing is cheap. People take on mortgages, car loans, business loans. The economy booms, asset prices inflate. Then the Fed raises rates. Suddenly, those same loans become expensive. People default. Businesses fail. Asset prices crash. And who is waiting with cash to buy everything at a discount? The same banks always. This cycle has repeated in 1929, 1987, 2001, 2008, and 2020. Every single time, wealth transfers upward. As the legendary banker Mayer Amschel Rothschild reportedly said, "Give me control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws." The Fed is not protecting your economy. It is managing a cycle of boom and bust that enriches its member banks at your expense. You were told the Fed exists to stabilize the economy. But since the Fed was created, the dollar has lost over 96% of its value. That is not stability. That is controlled demolition. And the demolition has a very specific target, which brings us to the real victim. Middle class death. The middle class was not destroyed by accident. It was dismantled by design. In the 1950s and 1960s, a single factory worker could buy a house, own a car, take vacations, and put children through college. Today, too, college-educated professionals struggle to afford what one worker had. What happened? Wages decoupled from productivity in the early 1970s, the same year the gold standard ended. Coincidence? Since then, worker productivity has risen over 60%, but real wages have barely moved. Where did all that extra value go? Straight to the top. Corporate profits, executive bonuses, shareholder returns. The working class produces more than ever and receives less than ever. And here is the cruelest part. They convinced you it was your fault. You did not work hard enough. You did not get the right degree. You did not network properly. The system breaks your legs and then blames you for not running. Meanwhile, the top 1% owns more wealth than the entire bottom 90% combined. That gap is not a glitch. It is the feature. The middle class was not just the backbone of the economy. It was a threat to concentrated power, because a middle class with savings has options, and options are dangerous to those who need you compliant. But how do they keep you compliant? That brings us to the psychological warfare. Fear factory. Debt is not just a financial tool, it is a psychological weapon. When you owe money, your brain enters a state of chronic stress. Cortisol levels rise. Decision-making deteriorates. Risk tolerance drops to nearly zero. Fear controls behavior. And that is exactly what the system wants. A person in debt does not start businesses. A person in debt does not protest. A person in debt does not question authority. A person in debt shows up, keeps their head down, and does what they are told. A man in debt is so far a slave. Think about how many talented, brilliant people are stuck in jobs that waste their potential Because they cannot afford to take a risk. How many entrepreneurs never started because they had a mortgage to pay? How many artists never created because they had student loans due? How many voices were silenced not by censorship, but by monthly payments? Compliance. The beauty of debt as a control mechanism is that it requires no force, no soldiers, no surveillance state. You police yourself. You set your own alarm clock. You drive yourself to the job you hate. You put on the smile and say yes, sir, because the alternative is losing everything. The most effective prison is one the inmate does not even recognize. And to keep you inside that prison, they have another tool: distraction. Let me show you how it works. Bread and circuses. The Roman poet Juvenal identified this strategy 2,000 years ago. Give the people bread and circuses, and they will never revolt. The modern version is fast food and streaming subscriptions. Think about what happens when you get home from work exhausted and stressed from the debt machine. Do you read about monetary policy? Do you study how the Federal Reserve works? Do you organize with your community? No. You open Netflix, you scroll social media, you order delivery, and you numb the pain just enough to do it all again tomorrow. Numb, consume, repeat. This is not laziness. This is design. Every streaming platform, every social media algorithm, every fast food chain is engineered to give you just enough dopamine to keep you functional, but not enough fulfillment to make you question the system. As Aldous Huxley warned in Brave New World, a really efficient totalitarian state would be one in which the all-powerful executive of political bosses control a population of slaves who do not have to be coerced, because they love their servitude. You are not being oppressed with violence. You are being pacified with comfort. Just enough comfort to keep you working, not enough to set you free. But here is the question nobody wants to ask. Who designed this system in the first place? The architects. In 1933, a United States Marine Corps Major General named Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine in American history at the time, wrote a book called War is a Racket. In it, he confessed something chilling. I spent most of my time being a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street, and for the bankers. He described how the entire military apparatus served the interests of banks and corporations, not the people. That was 1933. Has anything changed? The same banking families that funded both sides of World War I still control the financial system. The same institutions that created the Federal Reserve still set interest rates. The architects of debt slavery have names and addresses. In 1913, a secret meeting on Jekyll Island, Georgia, designed the Federal Reserve. The attendees represented approximately 1/4 of the world's wealth at the time. Power never surrenders willingly. They created a system where private banks control the money supply, where government debt enriches private investors, where the entire population works to service interest payments that flow upward to a tiny elite. This is not conspiracy theory. This is documented history that they simply hope you never read. The greatest trick power ever pulled was making you think you were free. But knowing who built the cage is only half the battle. You need to know how to escape it. Breaking free. Here is where the script changes, because the system is powerful, but it is not invincible. The first step is the one you are taking right now. Awareness. You cannot escape a trap you do not see. Awareness. The second step is radical debt elimination. Not just paying minimums. Attacking debt like your freedom depends on it, because it literally does. Every dollar of debt you eliminate is a chain link you break. 1. Stop borrowing to impress people who do not care about you. 2. Build an emergency fund, so fear cannot control your decisions. 3. Eliminate high-interest debt first, then attack the rest. 4. Learn skills that generate income outside the system. The third step is financial education, not from the institutions that profit from your ignorance, from independent sources. Learn about hard assets. Learn about inflation hedges. Learn how money actually works, because they deliberately did not teach you in school. The most dangerous weapon against tyranny is a financially educated citizen. The fourth step is the hardest. Refuse the script. Refuse the 30-year mortgage if you can. Refuse the consumer lifestyle. Refuse to measure your worth by your possessions. As the great Henry David Thoreau wrote, the cost of a thing is the amount of what I will call life, which is required to be exchanged for it. Every purchase is a trade. You are trading hours of your life. Make sure what you are buying is worth the freedom you are surrendering. The system was not designed for your prosperity. It was designed for your compliance. Mortgages, student loans, credit cards, inflation, they are all links in the same chain. From the moment you sign your first loan at 18 to the moment you make your last mortgage payment at 60, the system extracts your labor, your creativity, your time, and your freedom. And it does this so efficiently that most people never even realize they are in chains. They call it normal. They call it adulting. They call it responsibility. Normal is the trap, but now you see it. And once you see it, you have a choice. You can go back to sleep. You can keep scrolling, keep consuming, keep making minimum payments on a life you never really chose. Or you can wake up. You can start building a life where your time belongs to you, where your choices are not dictated by a payment schedule, where your potential is not mortgaged to a bank. The cage door is open. Freedom. If you made it this far, comment debt-free mind if you are done being a slave to a system you never agreed to. Every government lies. The question is, what are they lying about? The truth is out there. You just have to follow the money. Subscribe if you want to keep digging.